Have you ever heard of a spiritual blueprint for your bank account? Well, today we're unpacking a really fascinating framework called Heaven's Financial Blueprint. It's drawn straight from a sermon that lays out a whole system for faith-based financial prosperity. So, let's break it down. Okay, this one idea right here is the key to the whole thing. It reframes scripture from being just a book of hopeful ideas to being an actual divine actionable plan. It's like a set of instructions that, if you follow them, are meant to give you a predictable result. So in this explainer, we're going to act like architects. We're going to neutrally unpack this blueprint, piece by piece, looking at its foundation, its pillars, and what it's all supposed to build up to, all based on the source material. Now, this framework is built on a pretty provocative idea. This quote is foundational. It argues that being poor isn't some sign of being humble. Instead, it's seen as an actual obstacle, something actively getting in the way of you fulfilling your divine purpose. And that leads us to this central term, financial domination. Now, the source is super specific here. This isn't about greed or just hoarding a bunch of stuff. It's defined as governance, being the master of your resources instead of letting them be the master of you. So where does a blueprint like this even begin? Well, according to the source, it all starts with the mind. Before you do anything, before you take any action, there has to be a fundamental shift in how you think. This slide really gets to the heart of the conflict described in the teaching. There are two competing systems. The whole goal is to move from the world system, which is all about toil, fear, and just being a worker, over to heaven's system, which runs on trust, obedience, and seeing yourself as a steward. So here's the crucial point. The internal change has to come first. The source material basically claims that a mental transformation is the absolute prerequisite for any external financial change. The idea is that the transactions in your bank account are just a mirror reflecting the transformation in your mind. Okay, so we've laid the foundation, which is the mindset. Now let's start building on it with the how-to. What are the specific, actionable pillars that are meant to hold up this whole financial structure? The system really rests on three core pillars. First, there's vision. You can't get what you can't see, right? So visualizing prosperity is step one. Second, governed giving. Now, this isn't just random charity. It's described as a strategic action you take to command a financial response in your future. And third, dominion by decree, which is this idea that speaking words of faith is a seriously powerful, creative act. So how does that decree pillar actually work? Well, the source puts a huge emphasis on making repeated, bold declarations, just like this one. It's framed as more than just a positive affirmation. It's seen as an act of enforcing spiritual authority over your finances. And here's another example of a decree. This one, my words design my wealth, really reinforces the idea that words are the actual building blocks. According to this blueprint, a believer literally designs their financial world with their words, kind of like an architect uses a drawing. And finally, a declaration like I reign in life is meant to complete this massive identity shift. The source argues this is what moves a person's self-perception from being a victim of circumstances to being a ruler with divine authority over every area of life, and that includes money. So if the mindset is the foundation and the actions are the pillars, what makes it all work? Let's get into what you could call the operating system, a set of principles that the source calls spiritual laws. So what in the world is a spiritual law in this context? Well, it's presented as this unwavering principle. Kind of like gravity. If you apply it correctly, it's supposed to produce a consistent result every time. This frames financial blessing not as some random lottery, but as a predictable outcome when you engage the right principles. The source outlines several of these key laws that power the whole system. For example, there's divine timing, which acknowledges there are seasons for planting and seasons for harvesting. The law of diligence, which connects faith with doing excellent work. The idea of angelic enforcement, where speaking scripture is believed to activate supernatural help. Then there's the law of transfer, which says the wealth of the world will eventually move to the hands of the just. And finally, the law of restoration, which promises a multiplied return for anything you've lost. All right, this brings us to the final and maybe the most important part of the blueprint. Why? What is the ultimate goal of all of this? Why seek this financial dominion in the first place? The framework is crystal clear on this. The purpose is not personal gain. It's about four main things: being a living witness to God's goodness, creating a generational legacy, being a source of blessing for other people, and, this is a big one, viewing wealth as a responsibility to be managed for a divine purpose, not just a personal reward. So, after breaking down this entire financial blueprint, we're left with one central question. We've seen the focus on mindset, on decrees, and on activating these laws through what you say. The core mechanism from start to finish really seems to be verbal, which leads to a fascinating thought to leave you with. In this system, are words the ultimate currency?